When did a TikTok lie steal your hard-earned bonus and your chance to see your son? I literally just found out the entire reason I spent the last 3 months pouring my life into a project. The bonus money I was supposed to use to finally go see my son is being withheld because my psycho neighbor decided to call me out on TikTok for being a negligent grandparent. I am 81 years old. I don't even have a TikTok account. I'm sitting here in the office kitchen pretending to heat up day-old Panera soup, but really my hands are shaking so badly I can barely hold my iPhone 14. I need to vent before I go absolutely postal. TBH, I don't even know where to start with this mess, but I guess I need to start with the characters, because the whole thing is like a bad community theater play written by someone who has never met a functional adult. I work for a small, highly annoying digital content firm and their resident senior perspective consultant, which mostly means I write heartwarming narratives about people finding lost pets, or in my case recently, adopting people. My boss is Nicole Long 51F. Nicole is what you get if you crossed a chronic liar with a stressed-out hummingbird fueled entirely by Starbucks venti caramel macchiatos. She wears those aggressively cheerful, colorful scarves even in August. Past me was such an idiot for thinking she was just quirky. She is, in fact, an absolute snake. The reason I took this gig 2 years and 8 months ago was simple. I am an adoption journey traveler. That's what I call myself. I spent decades searching for my biological son, whom I had to put up for adoption when I was very young. We finally found each other last year, but he lives across the country, and travel isn't cheap when you're 81 and relying mostly on Social Security and a part-time gig where you make $27 an hour. Enter the bonus. For the last 3 months, I was the lead writer on the Generational Legacies campaign. It was intense late nights, a lot of skipped meals, and frankly, I used up all my available PTO and 3 sick days trying to hit the deadlines. I was promised a performance bonus of $2,500, explicitly earmarked for travel expenses to see my son. Nicole herself wrote it into the contract addendum back on Tuesday at 11:47 a.m., right after our weekly content meeting where she made me listen to her talk about her Peloton stats for 15 minutes. I was done, just done. I finished the last piece, a 5,000-word deep dive into the emotional trauma of adoption reunions, last Friday at 5:30 p.m. I submitted it, breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately checked my bank account, anticipating the direct deposit. My rent for the month $1,247 for my tiny apartment 3B was due, and I was running on fumes financially. I had only $114.56 in checking, and I was relying on that bonus to cover the rent, plus the $347 electric bill that somehow doubled this month, and the $43.67 grocery bill from Trader Joe's I put on my Costco card. Monday morning, I emailed Nicole. Checking in on the Generational Legacies bonus payment, I wrote, simple, professional. She texted back almost instantly, "Hey Donald, it went through finance this AM, we'll talk, busy week, Zoxo." I figured that was good enough. I put in my 60 days notice on my lease because I was planning to use the bonus plus some savings to move closer to my son by the end of the year. I even paid the $85 plumber charge to fix the leaky faucet, figuring I'd be reimbursed when the bonus hit. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, still nothing. I stopped by Nicole's office, the one on the 5th floor with the panoramic view she reminds everyone about daily. She was sipping a massive green juice and scrolling through something aggressively colorful on her Samsung Galaxy. "Nicole," I said, trying to sound calm, "the bonus hasn't hit. I really need those funds for the rent." She sighed like I was interrupting her deeply important influencer research. "Oh, Donald, about that, there's been a slight hiccup." I felt my stomach drop immediately. You know how when someone says hiccup, it means they are about to try and manipulate you into accepting a catastrophe? Yeah, that feeling? What kind of hiccup, Nicole? I asked. My hands were starting to shake again. I looked down and noticed I still had that stress rash creeping up my wrist. Well, she leaned forward conspiratorially. "It's external. It's really unfortunate. It has nothing to do with your performance," which, by the way, was stellar. Really loved that piece about the emotional architecture of family systems. I interrupted her before she could start gaslighting me with compliments. "Nicole, the money, $2,500, where is it? The board is sensitive about optics right now," she whispered like the office walls had ears. "They saw the TikTok," I blinked. "The what now? I don't use TikTok. I use Facebook to look at pictures of my grandson and sometimes I watch clips on Hulu." "Yes, well," she said, pulling up a video on her Samsung, turning the volume way down. "It's not your TikTok, Donald, it's your neighbors." This is where I introduce Aiden Russell, 20M. Aiden is my downstairs neighbor in apartment 2A. He's the type of guy who wears AirPods 24/7, even when he's just sitting on the porch looking stressed. He drives a beat-up Toyota Corolla but pretends it's a BMW, and he spends his entire life documenting his struggles for social media clout. He is loud. I mean literally loud. His bass shakes my floor every night until 2 a.m. I've left him notes, I've called the building manager, I've done everything short of smashing his subwoofer. Nicole showed me the video. It was grainy, shot on a low-quality phone camera, obviously. The title was something like, "When the Old Man Next Door is a Deadbeat Grandpa." In the video, which had somehow garnered 47,000 views in just a few days because of course it had, Aiden was standing in the parking lot next to my 2018 Honda Civic, pointing his camera up at my apartment 3B window. He was talking directly to the camera, his voice dripping with false concern. "So you guys know I talk about my struggles living in the city, right? But sometimes you see real generational neglect. See that apartment up there? That old guy Donald, he's supposed to be this huge adoption traveler always talking about finding his son." Then Aiden lowered his voice dramatically. "But get this, he hasn't seen his grandson in months. Why? Because he says he can't afford the plane ticket. Like, what kind of grandfather just prioritizes his silly writing job over his actual family? He literally just works and complains about his $1,247 rent. If you can't afford to be a grandpa, maybe don't be one. I swear I saw red. I felt my ears ringing, my chest tight. I wanted to reach through the phone and grab Aiden by his stupid designer sweatshirt. Wait, what? What is he saying? That's insane, I stammered, leaning against Nicole's desk. I talk about my son and grandson all the time. I've only just found them. He heard me on the phone, probably. He's twisting everything. Nicole nodded, but she wasn't listening. She was looking at the comments section. He tags us Donald. He used our company hashtag. Generational Legacies is funding neglectful grandparents, one commenter wrote. Another one said 81M should retire if he can't prioritize family. And this one, she pinched the bridge of her nose. This one says, is he using the travel bonus to pay off his bookie? I don't have a bookie, I yelled louder than I intended. A few heads turned outside her office. I know, Nicole said quickly, turning the phone off. But the board is spooked. We're an adoption company, Donald. Our whole brand is family unity. This viral call-out, even if it's baseless, is a huge liability right now. I could feel the nausea rising. I hadn't eaten anything but a forgotten slice of leftover pizza this morning, and now my vision was blurring. You're telling me, I spoke slowly, measuring my words like bricks, that the $2,500 bonus which I earned, which I was promised, which I need for rent and to see my family is being withheld because a narcissistic 20-year-old Aiden Russell, 20M, who complains about his $200 weekly Amazon withdrawals on Cash App, made up a malicious story on TikTok. Nicole avoided my eyes. She adjusted her colorful scarf. Not permanently withheld, Donald. Think of it as deferred until this blows over. We need to do some serious damage control. We need to prove this narrative is false. How? I need the money to buy the plane ticket. That's the only proof I need to refute this moron. I was supposed to fly out this weekend. Well, now you can't, Nicole stated flatly. And actually, the board wants you to focus on resolving the Aiden situation first. Resolving it like what? Keying his beat-up Toyota Corolla. I felt rage bubbling up, the kind of heat that an 81-year-old should probably be careful about. No, Donald, she sighed dramatically. We need to counter his narrative. We need a positive story, an apology maybe. We need you to go to his apartment 2A, maybe with some Ben and Jerry's, and film a quick wholesome video of you two burying the hatchet. We are neighbors and we support each other piece. Show some intergenerational unity. We need a surprise appearance that shows the world the drama was fake. My jaw literally dropped. The audacity. The sheer, staggering audacity of Nicole Long, 51F. She was asking me, the injured party, to grovel to the kid who just cost me my rent money and my travel plans just so she could save face with her stupid board. You want me to collaborate with the guy who publicly called me a deadbeat grandfather, Nicole? I will not do that. It's non-negotiable, Donald, she said, her voice turning sharp. The hummingbird facade vanished, replaced by pure corporate predator. Until you comply or until we find a satisfactory way to mitigate the damage, which honestly the fastest way is that video the bonus stays frozen. And frankly, the board is questioning your continued employment here given the drama you've brought to the brand. I wanted to throw her green juice across the room. I wanted to scream every swear word I had learned in 81 years. But I just stood there, speechless, processing the fact that I was one TikTok video away from being fired and evicted. I walked out of the office, straight down to the kitchen, pretending to heat soup, but really just trying to figure out how I was going to pull $1,247 out of thin air by tomorrow. I had already used my emergency funds on that $85 plumber charge. My Apple Watch buzzed with a notification. Low battery, great, just great. I was contemplating packing up my desk and walking out right then and there when my phone rang. It was my son. I let it go to voicemail because I couldn't bear to tell him I wasn't coming this weekend. As I stared blankly at the microwave timer, which read 0147, I decided I wasn't going to film a happy little video with Aiden. I was done being manipulated. If Nicole wanted a TikTok response, she was going to get one, but it was going to be the most accurate, unvarnished 81-year-old man's version of events possible. I was going to call them both out. I grabbed my bag, clocked out, and walked quickly through the lobby. I got into my Honda Civic, pulled out of the parking structure, and immediately drove towards my apartment 3B. I didn't even stop for coffee. I was going to confront Aiden Russell, 20M, face-to-face on camera right now. I wasn't even going to change out of my work clothes. I pulled into the apartment complex parking lot. The only available spot was right next to the beat-up Toyota Corolla that Aiden always parks slightly over the line. I turned off the engine, grabbed my iPhone, and took a deep breath. I checked the camera, cracked screen, but the lens was okay. I hit record. I walked toward the stairwell. I was going to catch him in apartment 2A, blast the actual truth, and send it to Nicole's board so fast her colorful scarf would spin. I felt the familiar rage fueling me. As I reached the landing between the second and third floor, the Ring doorbell on apartment 2A chimed, not mine, Aiden's. I heard his distinctive loud voice from inside the unit. Yeah, man, she was so easy to manipulate. I told her I needed the $200 for camera equipment, but I really just needed to pay for the Chipotle catering for the watch party tonight. That old dude is such a chump. He actually thinks he's going to get that bonus. My blood went cold. I froze on the landing. He wasn't talking to someone inside. He was on the phone, probably talking to some friend about his genius scam. Then I heard another voice, slightly muffled but unmistakable. High-pitched, nervous, and utterly familiar. Aiden, you have to be careful. If he finds out I could lose my job, I just need to hold the bonus for 2 more weeks and he'll have enough time to finish the paperwork for the corporate transfer. Just keep the story going on TikTok for a bit longer. It was Nicole Long, 51F, my boss. They weren't just reacting to the TikTok call-out, they were working together. Nicole was coordinating with my neighbor, Aiden, to manufacture the corporate disaster, solely to delay or steal my $2,500 bonus. likely so she could fund her own career move or maybe pay for his stupid Chipotle catering. I felt the entire world shift. The rage was gone, replaced by a terrifying, cold certainty. I raised my phone, still recording, and pushed open the outer door that led to Aiden's apartment. I didn't knock. I just walked straight toward apartment 2A. I could hear them laughing inside. I pushed the record button again, making sure the audio was crystal clear. Just as I was about to burst through the door, my phone buzzed again, not a text. A Zelle notification. It was from Nicole Long, 51F. Zelle, Nicole Long has sent you $2,500. Memo, enjoy your trip, XOXO my bonus. It was there. But why just seconds after I heard her admitting to the conspiracy? I looked at the door of apartment 2A, then down at the Zelle notification. I heard Nicole's voice again, clearer now. Don't worry, Donald is an old man. He won't figure it out. He's probably already on his way home to cry into his Talenti gelato. I stood there, the fully funded bonus sitting in my account, the evidence of the conspiracy ringing in my ears, and the door to my loud, deceitful neighbor's apartment just inches away. I had the money, but I had a much bigger problem now. I realized this wasn't just about the bonus anymore. This was about justice, and I had the camera rolling. I took a deep breath, prepared to unleash 81 years of pent-up indignation, and reached out my hand to turn the doorknob. But just as my fingers touched the metal, another door opened. Not 2A, the door right across the hall. Apartment 2B, a woman stepped out, holding a bag of trash, wearing oversized sunglasses and a massive, puffy coat despite it being 70 degrees outside. She looked right at me, dropped the bag, and gasped. "Donald Ross?" she whispered, her voice cracking with surprise and recognition. I recognized the face. I didn't know her name, but I knew exactly where I had seen her before. It was the woman from Aiden's video, the one who had commented he should retire if he can't prioritize family. She was clearly one of Aiden's TikTok crew, probably there for the watch party. I narrowed my eyes. "Yes, who are you?" She didn't answer. She pointed a trembling finger past me toward apartment 2A, where I could hear Aiden and Nicole still whispering conspiratorially inside. "Wait a minute," she stammered, scrambling to pick up her trash bag. "Is Nicole Long in there with him, the boss from the Generational Legacies campaign? Oh my god, you have no idea what they've been doing. I have been trying to warn you, but I thought you were just as bad as they said. Look at this." She fumbled in the pocket of her oversized coat and pulled out a stack of printouts, bank statements, Zelle transfers, and a printout of an internal company email with Nicole's signature at the bottom. The title of the email was highlighted in bright yellow: Operation Delay Donald. I looked from the printouts to the door of 2A to the unexpected, terrified woman in front of me. She clearly knew everything, and she had the receipts. I knew this wasn't going to be a simple call-out video anymore. This was going to be an expose. I lowered my phone slightly, still recording, and looked her in the eyes. I was about to ask her what the hell was going on when the door to 2A suddenly swung open. Aiden Russell, 20M, stood there, a bowl of Chipotle in his hand, blocking the view of Nicole Long, 51F, who was standing just behind him. Aiden took one look at me, my phone in my hand, and the woman from 2B, who was visibly shaking. Aiden's eyes went wide. "Oh no. You are not supposed to be here," he hissed, dropping the bowl of barbacoa and rice everywhere. "What are you doing, you old creep? Get lost." He reached out to grab my phone, and that's when the woman from 2B screamed, "Aiden, stop, you cannot keep lying to him." Aiden froze, his hand inches from my screen. Nicole Long peeked out from behind him, her face a mask of panicked horror. She looked at the woman from 2B, then at me, then at the recording red light on my iPhone 14. "Oh no, no, no," Nicole whispered, her voice barely a breath. "Donald, you don't understand." I looked directly into my phone camera, then at my boss, who was currently trying to cover up a multi-layered conspiracy, and then at the frantic woman holding the evidence. I turned the camera just slightly toward the open door of 2A, catching Nicole in the frame. "Oh, I think I understand perfectly," I said, my voice steady, even though I was vibrating with adrenaline. "I think you and Aiden just earned yourselves a very permanent spot in the Generational Legacies campaign. Tell me, Nicole, which part of the adoption journey involves stealing $2,500 from your 81-year-old employee to fund a 20-year-old's Chipotle habit?" Nicole tried to lunge forward, shouting, "That money was already paid back, Donald. You're making a huge mistake." But before she could reach me, the woman from 2B slammed her hand on the doorframe, pointing directly at Nicole. "He's not making a mistake, Nicole. Tell him the real reason you were going to withhold the bonus. Tell him who you really are." I didn't know who this woman was or why she was so intent on exposing Nicole. But the way she yelled it, the real reason, made my skin prickle with dread. I knew somehow that this had nothing to do with the bonus money, the job, or even the TikTok. It was about something much, much bigger. My phone was still recording. I kept the lens steady, pointed right at Nicole Long. My mind was racing. Who was this woman, and what was the real reason? Just as I was about to demand the woman explain herself, I heard heavy footsteps thundering down the stairwell behind me, coming from the floor above. They were too heavy and too fast to belong to anyone I knew in the building. A large, burly man suddenly appeared on the landing, breathing hard, looking directly at me. He was wearing a slightly stained t-shirt and had a panicked look in his eyes. He didn't look at Aiden. He didn't look at Nicole. He looked straight at the woman from 2B, who immediately whimpered and tried to duck back into her apartment. "I found you," the man said, his voice gravelly and threatening. "You can't keep running forever." Then he looked at me, noticed my phone, and gave the absolute worst grin I have ever seen. He took one step forward, blocking the stairwell completely. "Is this part of the adoption reunion?" he asked, not a hint of humor in his voice. "Because I'm here for the reunion, Donald, the one you never finished." I realized with terrifying clarity that I was now trapped between a corporate conspirator, a TikTok-obsessed liar, a furious witness, and this intimidating stranger who knew my name and my most private business. And my camera was still rolling. I literally just froze, like totally physically locked up. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my Apple Watch would call 911 automatically. I had Nicole Long, 51F, trapped, Aiden Russell, 20M, caught mid-scam, the witness from apartment 2B standing right there with the physical evidence, and now this absolute unit of a man blocking my exit, talking about reunions. I finally figured out who the woman in apartment 2B was. Her name was Jenna. Jenna because she had a name tag visible under the puffy coat when she tried to duck back inside her apartment. Jenna G. She was, according to the comment Nicole showed me, the one who wrote, 81M should retire if he can't prioritize family. She wasn't just some random TikTok follower. She was in the building. She was part of the chaos. I kept the phone trained on Nicole. The recording light was still a beautiful, reassuring red. Who are you? I demanded of the giant man blocking the stairwell, trying desperately to sound like a grizzled adoption journey traveler and not an 81-year-old who might spontaneously combust from stress. The man ignored me entirely. His eyes were locked on Jenna. Jenna, he growled. You told me you were going to the suburbs, not living across the hall from the mark. Jenna, meanwhile, was hyperventilating, holding the printouts like they were a shield. He's my client, Todd. He's the one who was supposed to pay me for the intel. They didn't pay me, Todd, they used me. Todd, great. So we had Donald, Aiden, Nicole, Jenna, and Todd. This wasn't a community theater play. This was a five-ring circus of absolute lunatics. Nicole Long finally found her voice, high-pitched and panicked. Todd, you are not supposed to be here. This is not part of the arrangement. Wait. Todd and Nicole knew each other. I pivoted the phone slightly to catch Todd's face clearly. He was massive, probably 6'4", with a very bad haircut. Todd, I said, trying to be authoritative, I suggest you step aside. I am recording this entire exchange and you are currently obstructing an investigation into corporate fraud. Todd laughed. It was a dry, nasty sound. Corporate fraud? That's cute, Donald. You think this is about $2,500 bucks. This is about you. This is always about you. He took another step down toward me, crowding my space. I had to brace myself against the wall to keep from stumbling backward onto the stairs. Aiden Russell, 20M, who had momentarily been forgotten, finally snapped out of his shock. He pointed at Jenna. She's lying. She's the one who leaked the internal email to that board member. She was trying to get me fired so she could take my social media consulting gig. I did not, Jenna shrieked. I told Nicole I wouldn't play along if they didn't pay my rent advance. They hired me to monitor Donald's social presence and turn the material into relatable, funny content. That's what Nicole called it. Operation Delay. Donald was supposed to give me 2 weeks of guaranteed work. I looked at Nicole. Her face was totally white beneath her aggressively applied contour. She looked like someone had just put her Peloton in the shredder. Nicole, I asked very calmly, is Jenna correct? Did you hire her and presumably Aiden to manufacture a corporate crisis around my adoption journey, specifically to delay my payment? Nicole stammered. It was a preemptive measure. The board was already nervous about your age and the senior perspective. Aiden was loud, yes, but Jenna was supposed to make sure the narrative stayed contained. We were going to pay them in crypto later. Todd snorted. You promised me $2,000 to find Jenna. Nicole, I don't care about your crypto. I care about my money and Jenna is coming with me. Jenna stepped forward away from 2B, her eyes pleading. Donald, please, Todd is my ex-husband. He thinks I owe him money from our divorce settlement. Nicole told me she could hide me here. She's been paying my rent for 2B. My head spun. Nicole was paying Jenna's rent, apartment 2B, who was hired to monitor me, who was working with Aiden, apartment 2A, to steal my bonus, and Jenna was hiding from her ex-husband, Todd, who Nicole had also hired, probably. This was more convoluted than a Russian nesting doll of terrible human beings. I wanted to sit down and drink about a gallon of Pepto-Bismol. I took a shaky breath, realizing I had all the players in one very tight, very recorded space. The spilled barbacoa was starting to smell aggressive. Okay, I said, my voice gaining strength. Nicole, you just admitted to corporate fraud, attempted theft, and actively interfering with an employee's personal life and finances. I have this recorded. I also have the Zelle receipt confirming you paid the $2,500 back exactly when I was standing outside the door, suggesting you knew I was here. I looked at Aiden, who was leaning against the doorframe, trying to look cool despite the panic radiating off him. Aiden, I continued, you used malicious, baseless lies for TikTok clout and collaborated with my boss to harm me professionally. I suggest you get a lawyer. I will be filing a police report for harassment and I will be contacting the local news station about this entire scenario. Then I looked at Todd. He was the wild card. He was the only one who seemed genuinely dangerous. Todd, I said, I don't know who you are or what reunion you're talking about, but I need you to move right now. Todd just smirked. Oh, you know me, Donald. You know my mother. Before I could process that truly cryptic and terrifying statement, Jenna screamed again, pointing at Todd's left arm. He's got the cuff, Donald. He's working for her. Todd made a quick, angry gesture toward Jenna. But I had seen it too. Peeking out from under his stained t-shirt sleeve was the edge of an ankle monitor. Not an ankle monitor exactly, it was too high, a GPS tracking device. Nicole, I asked, my voice deadly quiet, did you hire a man who is currently under house arrest or some form of parole to stalk and retrieve a witness in a corporate fraud case? Who exactly is paying his bond? Nicole Long burst into tears. Actual snot-running, dramatic crying. He's not under parole, she wailed, collapsing onto the floor next to the spilled rice. He's wearing a corporate tracking cuff. It's required for all our external contractors right now. It's a new HR policy. This was so ridiculously stupid, I almost laughed. HR policy dictated that all contractors wear GPS cuffs. This company was truly insane. Todd looked furious that she had exposed his fancy corporate tracking device. He started lunging toward Jenna. I did the only thing I could think of. I yelled, Aiden, get out of the way. And then I physically pushed past Todd and grabbed Jenna's arm. Jenna, we are leaving, now. I dragged Jenna, who was surprisingly heavy with the puffy coat and the panic, down the stairs and past Todd. Todd immediately started yelling and followed us. You can't take her, Donald. She has to sign the NDA. I didn't care about NDAs. I cared about survival. We burst out into the parking lot. I wrestled Jenna into the passenger side of my 2018 Honda Civic, tossing her trash bag and the printouts into the back seat. I jumped into the driver's seat, fumbled the key into the ignition, and pulled out of the parking space right as Todd came flying out the entrance. I didn't look back. I sped out of the complex, probably violating several local traffic laws, but honestly I didn't care. I was running on pure adrenaline and 81 years of repressed frustration. I drove about 3 blocks before I realized I was still recording on my phone. The entire insane confrontation was preserved. I quickly hit stop and checked the video length, 0437, enough time for Nicole's admission, Jenna's claims, and Todd's very confusing appearance. I pulled over by a Starbucks, ironically Nicole's life fuel, and put the car in park. Jenna G30s, former TikTok commenter corporate informant, was sobbing hysterically next to me. Donald, I am so sorry, she gasped between sobs. I never meant to hurt you. I just needed the rent money. She promised me a full-time gig if I helped expose Aiden and then manage the narrative. We can talk about that later, Jenna, I said, rubbing my temples. Right now we need to know what the real reason is and who Todd is, because he looked very familiar and he definitely knows me. Jenna took a deep, shaky breath, wiping her nose on the sleeve of her coat. Todd is my ex, but he's also her muscle. Nicole has been using him for heavy lifting for years. Todd doesn't wear a tracking cuff for HR. He wears it because he's on supervised release for an aggravated assault charge involving a debt collector. I leaned back against the headrest. I had just physically engaged with a convicted felon under supervision. This day was just stellar. And the reunion? I asked, dread coiling in my gut. Jenna looked pale. Nicole Long, she whispered, leaning in conspiratorially. She isn't just your boss, Donald. She knows your whole story. She's the one who anonymously sponsored the Ancestry DNA search that led you to your son last year. I stared at her. What? Why would she do that? That's insane. Because, Jenna swallowed hard, Nicole Long is the biological sister of your son's adopted mother. She has been obsessed with your family reunion drama for years. She claims she wants to protect her sister's family legacy, and she felt that you, the biological father, were going to destabilize everything. I felt the blood drain from my face. My boss, the aggressively cheerful, scarf-wearing Nicole Long, wasn't just a petty thief. She was an elaborate, controlling puppeteer who had engineered my entire adoption reunion just so she could monitor and sabotage it. She was literally playing God with my life and my family. The rage from part 1 felt like a pleasant warmth compared to the freezing, focused fury that now gripped me. TBH, Jenna, I said, picking up my phone and replaying the confrontation, this is going to be the biggest TikTok call-out in history, and I'm going to need you to transfer all those emails and printouts to me immediately. Okay, so it's been 2 days since the great barbacoa confrontation of apartment 2A. I haven't slept much. I'm living off old Fig Newtons and about 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. Jenna is currently staying in a cheap motel 2 towns over. I paid for 2 nights with the emergency fund I replenished using Nicole's $2,500 Zelle payment. NGL, it felt like poetic justice spending her money to hide the witness who was going to take her down. Jenna handed over everything. Screenshots of texts between her and Aiden, Zelle receipts showing Nicole paying Aiden for social media consultation fees, $200 at a time, just like he told his friend on the phone, and the actual detailed internal company memo. Operation Delay Donald, mitigating senior drama. The memo confirmed Jenna's story. Nicole had initiated the Generational Legacies campaign specifically because my search for my son was ongoing. She wanted to document the emotional narrative, but she also wanted control. The $2,500 travel bonus wasn't just a reward, it was the trigger. She planned to let me get the money, buy the ticket, and then use Aiden's TikTok video to manufacture a public relations crisis, delay the payout until after the travel date, and force me to apologize publicly for irresponsible spending, thereby discrediting my relationship with my son's family and making me look like the deadbeat grandpa Aiden claimed. The final goal was to make me quit in disgrace, allowing her to take credit for the successful campaign launch while eliminating the threat to her sister's family. It was diabolical. I spent all of Wednesday and most of Thursday getting my affairs in order. First, I resigned. I didn't send an email. I sent a formal letter to the board of directors via certified mail, attaching a link to the unlisted YouTube video of the confrontation, the Operation Delay Donald memo, and a 3-page affidavit from Jenna outlining Nicole's entire plan, including the parts about Nicole being obsessed with her sister's adoption history. I included the Zelle receipt showing the repayment and Nicole's desperate memo. Enjoy your trip, XOXO. I titled the email accompanying the certified letter, Generational Legacies, the true story of corporate fraud and familial obsession. I also forwarded all the evidence to my son. I let his voicemail pile up for 2 days because I was terrified of how he would react to the news that our reunion was engineered by my psycho boss who was related to his adopted mother. My son, by the way, is a software engineer named Sam 47M. He's the most patient person I know. He finally called me back Thursday afternoon, ignoring the voicemail I left explaining I couldn't visit, and went straight to the point. Dad, he said, his voice quiet but firm, what the heck is going on? Why did my mother's sister fund your ancestry search? And who is Todd? I told him everything. I didn't hold back the messy details, the Chipotle, the corporate tracking cuff, the whole terrible mess. Sam listened silently. When I finished, there was a long pause. Okay, he finally said. This explains a lot. My adopted mom, my Aunt Nicole's sister, Carol, she always seemed a little too interested in our reunion. Like she was reading a book about us, not living the relationship. Sam told me that he and his wife Sarah were already suspicious of Nicole because she had been oddly aggressive about trying to manage their first post-reunion visit schedule. Apparently, Nicole had told Carol that I was an unstable, 81-year-old man who needed constant supervision. Look, Dad, Sam said, forget the trip this weekend. You need to get out of that apartment. You have everything you need to take her down. Send me everything. I will send all this to the State Attorney General's office, the Labor Board, and every financial institution she deals with. And I will pay for your ticket to fly out next week. I just want you safe. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, I actually cried. Not the stressed out kind of tears, but the relieved, grateful kind. My son wasn't running away. He was running toward the problem with me. That meant everything. Fast forward to Friday afternoon. I am packing up my apartment 3B. I paid the rent, thankfully, and I am breaking the 60-day lease notice down to 7 days, arguing unforeseen circumstances and active harassment. My landlord, bless his heart, is so scared of the drama that he's letting me go with just a week's rent penalty if I sign a non-disclosure about the incident involving the man with the electronic bracelet. I signed immediately. I don't want to talk about this apartment complex ever again. I had planned on leaving quietly, but Nicole Long 51F had other plans. My phone rang. Unknown number. I picked up, figuring it was probably my lawyer. Yes, I got one, a very nice public interest lawyer recommended by Sam's wife. Donald Ross, a voice hissed. It was Nicole. She must have gotten my resignation letter and the video link. You think you can ruin me? You think your little geriatric video is going to touch me? She sounded unhinged, completely manic. Nicole, I said, I have everything recorded. I have the receipts. You just admitted to hiring a felon, trying to steal from your employee, and orchestrating a corporate crisis for personal gain. You're done. The board laughed at your video, Donald, she shrieked. They said it looked like bad fiction. That woman, Jenna, she's a known unreliable source. And Todd, he's a consultant. They love him. You are going to be sued for defamation, harassment, and breaking corporate confidentiality. I'm going to ruin your reunion, Donald. I always wanted to control it, and I will. I paused. She was bluffing, but she was definitely capable of suing. The only thing I had left to fight with was pure, unadulterated truth. You know what, Nicole? I said, I don't care about the lawsuit. I've been sued by telemarketers. I'm 81. What are you going to take? My social security check? Go for it. But you know what? You can't take this. I pulled up the TikTok app. Yes, I finally downloaded TikTok. I had been practicing all day. I wasn't just going to send the video to the board, I was going viral. I was going to give the people what they wanted, the real generational legacies story. I am about to make a little surprise appearance myself, Nicole, I told her. I think the world needs to know the full story of the chronic liar and the loud neighbor. Maybe I'll call it Deadbeat Grandpa Strikes Back. I hung up before she could respond. I was shaking again, but this time it was different. It was the adrenaline of impending war, not fear. I sat on my half-packed couch wearing the same clothes I wore 2 days ago, and I uploaded the 37-minute video. I added a simple 2-word caption, truth REVLED. I tagged the company. I tagged Aiden Russell's account. I even tagged Jenna G in a separate comment, thanking her for the documents. I hit post. It felt like jumping off a cliff. Update this morning, Saturday. Y'all, I woke up to my phone constantly buzzing. My video has 1.4 million views in less than 12 hours. The comments section is a beautiful, chaotic wasteland of rage and vindication. People are calling Nicole Scarf Boss, and Aiden is now Chipotle Boy. The video is so raw, so unedited, with the spilled barbacoa and Nicole's hysterical crying, that it validated every single claim I made. It wasn't fiction, it was an accidental documentary of corporate sabotage. My phone started ringing off the hook again. It was my lawyer, David. Donald, he said, sounding thrilled. The board saw the video. They are absolutely panicking. They locked Nicole out of her accounts an hour ago. They are preparing a statement, distance themselves from her unauthorized actions. And the job? I asked, though I didn't care much anymore. You're not fired, he chuckled. You're probably their most valuable asset right now. They want to fly you out first class to speak to the press about the importance of transparency and truth in the adoption journey narrative. They are offering you $15,000 to sign a settlement agreement and drop any further action, citing Nicole as the sole rogue element. I almost dropped the phone. $15,000. That was enough to pay the rest of the rent penalty, buy the plane ticket, and cover the first 3 months of rent closer to Sam. David, I said, tell them I'll take it, but only if they agree to pay Jenna's outstanding debts and provide her with 6 months of housing assistance. She was manipulated, and frankly, she's terrified of Todd. David sounded surprised. That's generous, Donald. I'll include it in the draft. One more thing, I added. I want Nicole Long 51F to be banned from ever working in a content or public relations capacity again. I want that on the record. A week went by where I was essentially a viral sensation. I moved out of apartment 3B on Tuesday. I'm currently staying with my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson 78F in 4A, who is secretly my biggest fan and brought me homemade lasagna. She keeps calling me the TikTok Avenger. Nicole Long, she's gone. The company released a scathing public statement confirming her immediate termination and announcing a full internal investigation. The hashtag Deadbeat Grandpa Strikes Back is trending. Aiden Russell 20M, he deleted his TikTok account. His Toyota Corolla is gone from the parking lot. His apartment 2A is silent. I hear he moved back in with his parents in suburban Ohio after his college loan application was denied due to character concerns raised by his local police report. I did file that harassment report. BTW. Serves the little narcissist right. The settlement was signed on Wednesday. $15,000 deposited into my checking account. Jenna is in safe housing, and I even sent her a $500 Zelle transfer for her cooperation. She cried again, but this time they were happy tears. The biggest loose end, of course, was Todd, the burly man with the corporate ankle monitor. Todd, who knew my name and referenced my son's reunion. I was sitting in Mrs. Henderson's apartment, eating her excellent lasagna when Sam called me. "And I found out who Todd is," Sam said, his voice flat. "Who?" I asked, gripping the phone. "He's not related to Carol, my adopted mom. He's related to you. Remember the adoption papers, the one who facilitated the placement back in '75, the caseworker?" I nodded slowly, trying to remember the details from 50 years ago. "Yes, what about him?" "Todd is the caseworker's son. Apparently his father promised Todd the details of your reunion specifically for financial gain. Todd's father passed away last year and left Todd a legacy or contact information and a detailed plan on how to profit from your story. Todd was trying to collect on what he thought was his inheritance." I put down the fork. The adoption caseworker decades ago planned to exploit my search 50 years later. And Nicole Long had somehow gotten wind of this, maybe through her sister, and partnered with Todd to control the narrative. I realized with terrifying clarity why Nicole had engineered this whole disaster. She wasn't just protecting her sister's family legacy, she was protecting her own dark secret, that she had conspired with Todd to manage the fallout of the caseworker's attempted exploitation. By making me look unstable, she could discredit any future claims I or Sam might make about being manipulated. This wasn't just corporate fraud. This was a decades-long saga of familial obsession and financial exploitation, all culminating in a chaotic confrontation over spilled Chipotle. I just sat there looking at my reflection in the window. I am 81 years old and I literally survived a conspiracy involving my psycho boss, her obsessed sister, a loud TikToker, a corporate informant, and the son of the man who facilitated my son's adoption. 3 days after that, I am at the airport. I am checking in for my flight. First class, paid for by the company that employed Nicole Long. I feel like an absolute spy. I texted Sam a picture of my boarding pass. My reflection on this whole mess is simple. I'm not proud of everything. I was so blind to Nicole's red flags because I was desperate for the money and the connection. I let myself be manipulated because I prioritized seeing my son over confronting the blatant weirdness of a 51-year-old woman wearing aggressively cheerful scarves. My one regret is that I didn't confront Aiden earlier about the noise. Maybe I could have avoided the whole disaster. But I'm also proud. I didn't grovel. I didn't apologize. I exposed the truth, and I used the very tools they tried to use against me, social media and public opinion, to take them down. The plane is boarding now. I'm getting settled into my ridiculously large, comfortable seat. I'm going to see my son. I'm going to meet my grandson for the first time face-to-face without the shadow of a corporate liar or a loud neighbor hanging over me. I still have bad days where I wake up in a cold sweat thinking about Todd and the reunion. The financial stress is still real, even with the $15,000 settlement. He'll have to find a new job soon, but for now I am free. I check my phone one last time before putting it on airplane mode. I got a final text message. It wasn't from Sam or David or even Mrs. Henderson. It was from Jenna G. Text, "Hey Donald, just wanted to let you know Todd tried to reach me yesterday. He used a burner phone. He said Nicole is hiring him to write her memoir. Titled Generational Legacies. The board made me do it. I think she's lost it. Be safe." I smiled, actually smiled, and put the phone away. Nicole Long's final act of chaos, writing a completely delusional memoir. The irony is absolutely perfect. I looked out the window as the plane taxied onto the runway. I am 81, a viral sensation, a corporate whistleblower, and soon I will be a physically present grandpa. This adoption journey definitely had some unexpected turbulence, but honestly I wouldn't change a thing. Maybe I'll start a podcast about it. I already have the first 4 episodes recorded thanks to my iPhone 14. Anyway, that's the update. Wish me luck for the landing.